sipurei is the 10th story in the middle. Omaaiiinnn nach nachman, you on the burger's son, remained there in that same place, and he made himself a place to live. He dwelled there, and he was also able to play music. He was skilled in the art of lyrics. He selected wood out of which musical instruments could be made, and he made himself instruments out of the veins of animals. He made the strings, thus he was able to play to himself. He would take the note which he had that the emperor's daughter had sent him while he was in prison, and he would sing and play his instruments. He remembered all that happened to him, how his father had been a burgher, etc., and how he had been cast away. He went and took the note and made a mark on a tree. There inside the tree he hollowed out a place and he hid the note. After he had been there a while, one day there was a great storm wind that blew down all the trees of that place. He could not recognize the tree where he had hidden the note. As long as the trees were standing, he could recognize his sign. But what now that the trees had fallen? This tree was mixed up among the many other trees there, and he had no way of recognizing that particular tree. It was impossible for him to split them all open to find the note, since there were so many trees. This caused him to weep and grieve very much. He realized that if he stayed there, he would definitely go mad, because he had such great anguish. He decided that he must move on. No matter what will happen to him, leave he must. If he did not, he would be in danger because of his deep anguish. So he put some meat and fruit in a sack and went in no specific direction. He made himself some vines, marking the place which he left. He continued until he reached a settlement. What land is this? He asked, and they replied. He asked if they had ever heard of the world emperor. They answered him yes. He asked if they had heard about his about his daughter, the great beauty. They answered him yes, but it was impossible to marry her because she will not have anybody, etc. He came to a decision in light of the fact that it would be impossible for him to travel there. So he went to the king of that land and poured out his heart to him. He told him that he was her true bridegroom, and that because of him she would not marry anyone else. Since it was impossible for him to go there, he will give the king all the signs that he has. That is the 7 waters she had described. He asked that the king go there and make an engagement with her, and that the king should pay him for this information. The king realized that he was telling the truth, since it would be impossible to make up a story like this. And the idea pleased him. However, he decided that he wanted to bring the princess back with him, but the young man would still be there, so it would not turn out very well. Should he kill him? He did not have the heart to do so. For why should he be killed for doing him a favor? Therefore he decided to exile a burgher's son 200 miles away. The son was very upset by this, since he has been exiled for doing the king a favor. So he went to another king and told him the story. That is the young man, the burgher's son, and because he resented the first king for having exiled him, went to a different king and told him also the whole story with all the signs, so that the other should make haste to marry the beauty. He related all the signs to the second king, and also added an additional sign. He told the king that he should make haste and set out immediately, so that he could overtake the first king in order to get there first. But even if he does not get there first, he still has one sign more than the first. The second king had the same thought as the first, that it won't go well for him. It's not good before him. It's not good in his eyes. That it won't go well for. It's not good for him. It's not good it's not accepted upon him. It's not doesn't seem right to him. That it won't go well for him if the young man should be there, and he also exiled him 200 miles further. Again, he was very upset, so he went another time to a third king. He also told him the whole story, as with the others, and to the third one he gave even more signs. Very good signs. The first king immediately set out on the journey and came to the place where the emperor's beautiful daughter was. He composed a lyric and skillfully included in it all the places that had served as witnesses. He composed a lyric and skillfully included in it all the places that had served as witnesses, that is the 7 types of water, which were the main sign she was looking for in a prospective groom. However, the rules of the lyrics led him to speak of the places in a different order than the story really happened, since that is how it came out according to the method of the lyric. He came to the place said as halvai for those courting her, and recited his lyric. When the emperor's daughter heard the mention of these places, that is the 7 types of water, she was very surprised. She was positive that this was her destined groom. However, she still had some uncertainty since the places were not in correct order, but she thought that perhaps he had to change the order because of the artistry of the poem. So she made up her mind that he must be the one. She wrote to him that she considered herself engaged to him. She wrote to him that she considered herself engaged to him. There was great joy and tumultuous excitement because what was the great beauty had found a match. Plans were soon made for the wedding. In the meantime, there arrived the other one, that is the other king, to whom the youth had also divulged all the signs, and one sign more, etc., and the other one also hastened there to her estate. He was told that she had already agreed to marry another, but he paid no heed. He said that he still had something to tell her that would affect the situation. He got to her and recited his poem. He got to her and recited his poem, now placing all the places in correct order, and also adding an individual sabavan. Then how did the first one know all this? She asked if he should tell the truth, that the young man had told the first one that certainly wouldn't be good for him, so he said that he did not know. She found this very puzzling, and she was very bewildered. Since the first one had also recited all the places, how could people know these signs? Still, it seemed logical that the second king was her destined one, since she saw that he had given the signs in order and an additional and it was possible that the first one had mentioned these places merely because the art of composing the poem brought them to mind. Meanwhile, she decided to do nothing. That is, she could not decide on a course of action. So she remained passive and refused to enter into marriage with anybody. The young man, that is the burgher's son, when the second king exiled him, was again very upset with it. He went to a third king and told him the whole entire story and gave him even more signs, very compelling signs. And to the third, he poured out his whole heart, telling him that he had a note on which all these places were drawn. Nanach, nachma, meuman. To the third he poured out his whole heart, telling him that he had a note on which all these places were drawn. That is the 7 types of water. It told the king to draw all these places on a piece of paper and bring it to her. The third king also exiled the young man 200 miles further, and the third also hastened there. On arrival there, he was told that the two kings, etc., were there already. He said, no, he said that he would try anyway, since he had something that would definitely change the situation. The people did not know why she wanted these kings more than the others. The third king arrived at her estate and recited his poem with very clear signs, better than the first ones. Then he showed her the note with all the places drawn, which he himself had drawn. She wasn't shocked, but she could not do anything, because with the first she also thought he was the one, and then the same thing about the second. Therefore she said that she would not believe anything until someone brought her the original note itself. Meanwhile the young man thought How many times will he be sent further away? He therefore made up his mind that he would go there himself, that is to the emperor's daughter. Perhaps he would accomplish something. So he traveled and traveled until he finally arrived there. He said that he had something to say that would definitely change the situation. And he came and recited his lyric. He revealed even more signs, very compelling signs. He told her how they had gone to school together and other similar things, and he told her everything. How he had sent the other kings, and how he had hidden the note in a tree, and everything else that had happened to him. But she paid no heed to all of this. The first three kings, of course, also had some excuse for not having the notes, and to recognize him was clearly not possible. Since he had been gone a long time, she refused to pay heed to any signs at all until he actually brought the original note written in her own handwriting. She had already thought that the first one was surely the one, and similarly the other kings. Therefore she did not want any more signs or the like. The young man decided that he cannot tarry there. That is, he cannot stay there long, because perhaps if it becomes known that he is here, the emperor will kill him. He therefore made up his mind that he would go back to his spot in the desert where he had been previously, and spend the rest of his life there. He walked and walked to come to this desert, and finally he arrived there. While all this was happening, many years went by. The young man made up his mind that he would live in the desert and live out his days there. He had contemplated a person's entire life in this world, and concluded that it would be best for him to spend the rest of his life in the desert. There he lived and ate the fruits, etc., just as before. Meanwhile, on the sea there was a pirate. He heard that such a beautiful woman existed, and got the idea to take her prisoner. He himself could not do anything with her because he was a eunuch. However, he felt that neutered. He himself could not do anything with her because he was a eunuch. However, he felt that if he could kidnap her, he could sell her to a king for a huge sum of money. He began to set a plan in motion. Now a pirate ignores his own welfare. If he succeeds, and if not. And what does he care, since he was wanton, like pirates are? The pirate went and bought a large amount of merchandise, an extraordinarily huge amount. He also made golden birds, and they were made with such great artisanship, and they were made with such great artisanship that they actually appeared to be alive. They seemed just like real birds. He also made golden grain stalks upon which the birds stood. This alone was remarkable, that they were able to stand on the stalks without the stalks breaking, even though the birds were quite large. He also made mechanisms so that the birds appeared to sing. One clicked its tongue, one chirped, and one sang. One clicked its tongue, one chirped, and one sang. It was all done through trickery. Man would be in a room on the ship behind the birds, and these men did everything, and it looked as if the birds themselves were playing, for they were made with invisible wires, So one thought, what? The birds themselves were doing it all, taking all this. The pirate set off to the land where the emperor's daughter was. When he came to the city where she was, he docked his ship and cast anchor. He made himself out as an important burger. People came to buy all kinds of precious goods. He remained there for some the next quarter of a year, while people brought home the beautiful merchandise they had bought from him. The emperor's daughter also wanted to buy it from him, and she sent a message asking him to bring his wares to her. He replied with a message that he has no need to bring his wares to a buyer's house, even if she's an emperor's daughter. Whoever wants his goods must come to him. A burgher cannot be compelled to do otherwise. The emperor's daughter decided to go to him, and her custom was whenever she went out in public, she would place a veil over her face, so that people would not be able to look at her, otherwise they would fall down in a faint and become ill because of her beauty. The emperor's daughter went out with her face veiled, and she took her companions with her. A troop of guards escorted her. She went to the so-called burgher, who was actually the pirate, bought some of his wares and started to go on her way. If you come back, said the burgher. If you come back, said the burgher, I will show you even more beautiful articles that are truly wonderful. With that she returned home. After that she came again, bought some merchandise and went home again. The pirate remained there for a while, and she became accustomed to visiting him. She would come to him often. Then one day she came to the burgher, and he went and opened the door to the cabin where the golden birds were, etc. She was able to see them, and it was an amazing sight. Yeah, and it was an amazing sight. The other people who were with her also wanted to come into the cabin. No, he said, I don't show this to anyone except you, because you are the emperor's daughter, but I don't want to show others at all. She went in alone. He also went into the room, locking the door behind them. And then he did a crude thing. He forced her into a sack and took off all her clothing. He then dressed one of his sailors with her clothing, veiled his face, and pushed him out. Go, he said. The sailor did not know what was happening to him. As soon as he emerged with his face covered, the soldiers, not realizing whom he was, immediately began escorting him. They thought that he was the emperor's daughter. The sailor went along with the troop wherever they led him, and he had no idea where he was. So he came to the emperor's daughter's room. When his face was uncovered, they realized that he was a sailor. There was a great uproar, and the sailor's face was slapped very well, and he was thrown out, since he was not guilty, for he knew nothing. Having captured the emperor's daughter, the pirate knew for certain that he would be pursued. He left the ship, then hid himself together with her in a pit full of rainwater, in a pit full of rainwater, He left the ship and hid himself. He left the ship and hid himself together with her. He left the ship and hid himself together with her in a pit full of rainwater until the uproar would subside. He ordered his sailors to cut anchor and flee immediately, since they would certainly be pursued. They would surely not fire on the ship, since it would be assumed that the emperor's daughter was on board, but they will pursue you. Therefore you must flee immediately, he said. And if they catch you, so what? Like all pirates, they paid no heed to their own welfare. They were wanton. It happened as he predicted. There was a great outcry, and they were immediately chased. But they did not find the princess there. The pirate hid himself along with her in a pit of rainwater, and they remained there. And he threatened her so that she should not cry out, so that people would not hear her. Thus he said to her, I have risked my life for your sake so that I should capture you. If I should then lose you again, then my life is not worth anything to me, since you are already in my hands. If I should lose you again, and should you be taken away from me, then my life would be worth nothing to me. Therefore, as soon as you scream out, I will immediately strangle you, and whatever happens to me will happen, since I do not consider my life worth anything. She was mortally afraid. The emperor's daughter, who was lying with the pirate in the pit, was afraid to scream because of his threats. Afterwards, he left that place with her and brought her to a city. They traveled and traveled until they came to a place where the murderer realized that people were searching for him. He hid himself together with her again, this time in a ritual bath. Afterwards he also left that place and came to another place, and there also he hid with her in a different type of water. Thus he hid with her every time in a different type of water, until he had hidden with her in all the 7 kinds of waters that the burgher had hidden in with her mother, which constitute the 7 witnesses, etc. Finally he came with her to the sea. He tried to find at least a fisherman's boat, so that he could cross with her, and he found a ship and took the emperor's daughter. He had no personal need for her, since he was a eunuch, but he wanted to sell her to a king, and was apprehensive that someone might try and take her from him by force. He therefore dressed her in sailor's clothing, so that she looked like a man. And the pirate traveled with her on the sea, that is, with the emperor's daughter, whom we shall speak of as a male, because she was disguised thus by the pirate. And a storm wind came and carried the boat away to a shore, and the boat was wrecked. They arrived at the shore of the same desert where the young man lived. When they came there, the brigand burgher pirates. When they came there, the burgher pirates had the usual expertise in travel routes, and knew that this was a place in the desert that ships never came to. Therefore he realized that he had no one to fear, and he let her roam around. So he walked this way and she went that, and she that way, as they searched for food. She distanced herself greatly from the burgher pirate, and the burgher pirate went in his own direction. When he realized that she was not in his vicinity, he began to call out for her, but she decided not to reply at all. She thought to herself, my fate is that he will well me. Why should I answer him? If he finds me again, I will reply that I did not hear him, especially as he does not want to kill me, for he wants to sell me. She did not answer him and went further away. The burgher pirate looked all over for her, but could not find her. He walked on, and he still could not find any trace of her, and probably he was devoured by wild animals. So she wandered on further and further. She was able to find food, and walked until she found the place where the young man was living, that is the burgher's son. Since her hair had grown, and she was dressed like a man in a sailor's outfit, they did not recognize one another. As soon as she arrived, he became very happy that another person had come there. How did you get here? He asked. I was with a burgher on the sea, etc. She replied. How did you get here? He replied, also through a burgher. The two of them remained together after the emperor's daughter was taken from the emperor. After the emperor's daughter was taken from the emperor, the empress lamented bitterly for the loss of her daughter. Hitting her head against the wall, she berated the emperor, telling him, because of your pride you lost the young man, and now our daughter has been lost. And she would tell him she was all our fortune and success. Now we have lost her. What do I have left now? She continued berating him very harshly. The emperor himself also grieved very much for the loss of his daughter. And in addition, the empress berated him and troubled him greatly, and thus there were severe arguments and strife between them. She said so many awful things to him and angered him so much that he decided to banish her. He appointed judges to try her, and they sentenced her to be banished. She was thus banished. After this, the emperor went to war and was not victorious, so he blamed this on a general. Because you acted so, you lost the war. Then he banished the general. After that, he again went to war, and again he was not victorious, and again he exiled the general. A number of generals were thus exiled. The citizens realized that he was behaving in a bizarre fashion. First he had exiled the empress. Now the generals, they decided, the citizens, to reverse the situation, recalling the empress and exiling him. The empress could rule the land. They did so. The emperor was exiled and the empress was reinstated, and she ruled the land. The empress immediately sent out an order to have the burgher and his wife restored, whom the emperor had brought low and turned into paupers, etc. She brought them into her palace. When the emperor was being taken away, he asked those who were taking him to release him. I was your emperor, he said, and I certainly did good things for you. Now have pity on me and let me go. I will definitely not return to this land anymore. You have nothing to fear. Let me go and I will leave. Let me at least be free for the few years that I still have to live. They released him and he traveled on and on. Meanwhile, many years passed, and the emperor wandered on and on until he went out to sea. A wind carried away his boat, and he also came to the same desert that the others arrived at. He finally came to the place where the other two were living. These were the young man who was the burgher's son and his own beautiful daughter, who was now wearing men's clothes. They did not recognize each other, since the emperor's hair had grown long and many years had passed since he had left. Their hair had also grown long. How did you get here? They asked him. Through a tradesman, he replied. They gave similar answers to his questions, and the three of them remained together, eating and drinking as before. And there they played on musical instruments, since they all could play, for he was an emperor, and also the others could play. And he, the young man, was the holiest of them, since he had been there a long time. He brought the meat, and they ate. They burned wood that would be more precious than gold in a civilized area. The young man tried to convince them that this would be a good place for them to spend the rest of their lives. Compared to benefits that people usually have in civilized areas, it is better to remain here to live out one's life here. They asked him, what benefits did you have before you came here, that you say it is better here? He answered them, telling them what had happened to him, how he had been a prosperous burgher's son, etc., and how he had eventually come to this spot, and how good it was as a burgher's son. He had everything he needed, and here also he has all that he needs. Thus the young man told them everything. He demonstrated to them that it would be good to spend their lives in this place. Did you ever hear of the world emperor? Asked the emperor. The burgher's son replied that he had. So he asked him about the beauty, whether he had heard of her. Yes, he replied. The young man began to speak angrily. The murderer, like one who gnashed his teeth at another. So the young spoke angrily about the emperor as they talked about him, for he was not aware that the emperor himself was talking with him. Why is he a murderer? Asked the emperor. I am now here because of his cruelty and base character. He replied, how did that happen? Asked the emperor. He replied, how did that happen? Asked the emperor. The young man decided that he had no one to fear, so he told him and related the whole story of what he had gone through. Apparently beforehand he had merely told them that he was the burgher's son, but he had not told the main story. The emperor asked him, if you had the emperor in your hands, would you exact revenge on him now? He answered, no, since the young man was merciful. Quite to the contrary, I would provide for him, just as I provide for you. Now the emperor then began to sigh and groan. What a terrible and bitter old age this emperor must be having. He had heard that his daughter, the great beauty, had been lost, and that he himself had been exiled. Again, the young man exclaimed this was because of his cruelty and because of his pride. He destroyed both himself and his daughter, and I have been cast away here all because of him. So he asked him, the emperor of the young man, if you had him in your hands, would you take revenge against him? No, he replied, quite to the contrary. I would provide for him exactly. I would provide for him exactly like I provide for you. Oh, he replied, quite on the contrary, I would provide for him exactly like I provide for you. The emperor then revealed his identity. He informed him that he himself was the emperor, and then related what had happened to him. The young man fell on him, kissing and hugging him, and she, that is, the beauty, who was also present, only in disguise, etc., heard everything, how the two were talking to one another. The young man had made it his practice to go. The young man had made it his practice to go each day to make a mark on the tree on 3 trees, and there he looked for the note, for there were thousands upon thousands of trees. So he marked 3 trees, which he searched, so that he need not search them again the next day. This he did every day. Perhaps he would still find the note that she had sent him, which he had lost among the trees, etc. When he used to come back from there, he came with tears in his eyes, because he used to weep when he searched and could not find. They, that is the emperor and the beauty, asked him, what are you searching for among the trees, and why do you return with tears in your eyes? So he told them the entire story of the emperor's daughter, the great beauty, had sent him a note, how he had hid it in one of the trees, and how a storm wind had come, etc. Now he was looking for it, and perhaps we will find it. They said to him, tomorrow when you go to look, we will also go with you. Maybe we will find the note. Maybe we will find the note. And so they did. They went with him, and the emperor's daughter found the note in a tree. When she opened it, she saw that this is her own note. She saw that this is her own note in her handwriting. She thought to herself, if she immediately revealed her identity to him, she would have to put aside her disguise. She thought to herself, if she immediately revealed her identity to him, she would have to put aside her disguise and return to her original attractiveness, and return to her original attractiveness. And should she again become a great beauty like before, he could collapse and expire, and she desired that it should be done correctly, according to traditional practice. According to the traditional practice, that is, she cannot marry him here in the wilderness, because she has to have an appropriate wedding. She therefore merely returned the note to him and told him that she had found it. He immediately collapsed and became infirm. They revived him and nursed him back to health, and there was great joy among them. The young man said, what use do I have for the note? Afterwards, will I find her? Afterwards will I find her? Surely she is now with some king, for he thought that she had been sold by the murderer. As the emperor had told him, why do I need this? Let me spend the rest of my life here. He went and gave her back the note, and said to her, you take the note, so that you may go and marry her. For she was disguised as a male. She agreed to him, but asked him also to go with her. She said, since I will certainly take her hand in marriage, all will be well for me, so I will give you also a share of my success. The young man realized that he, the emperor's daughter, whom he thought was a man, was very clever, and he would certainly would certainly be successful in taking her hand. He therefore agreed to go with him, and the emperor planned to stay there alone. And the emperor planned to stay there alone, since he was afraid to return to his land. She implored him also to come, for he will surely take the beauty. So you will now have nothing to fear. That is, she said to him, I will surely trace the supposedly captive beauty. So you will have nothing to fear, because your good fortune will return when she is found, and you will also be requested to return, and you will also be requested to return. The three set out together. They have hired a ship and came to the land where the empress lived. They came to the city where she was located and left the ship. The emperor's daughter realized that if she revealed herself immediately to her mother and told her mother that she had come back, her mother might expire. She therefore went and sent a message to her mother that a man had been found who had some information about the missing daughter. She herself then went to the empress and told her what had happened to her daughter, relating the entire story. When she had ended, she said she is so here. She then revealed the truth. It is I am she. She then related that her bridegroom, the bigger son, was also here. However, she told her mother that she made it a condition that her father, the emperor, be restored. Her mother did not want this at all, since she was still furious with him because everything had been his fault. Still, she had to fulfill her daughter's request. They wanted to bring him back, the emperor, but when they checked where he was supposed to be, they discovered that he was missing. The daughter then revealed that the emperor was also with her. The wedding took place, and the joy was complete. The couple took over the kingdom and the imperial title. That is the burgher's son, and the beauty got married, and they reigned supreme, That is, they reigned over the whole world. Subsequently, the old emperor had no true greatness, since everything had been his fault, while the burgher, though, has much greatness, since he was the father of the new emperor, who had the main importance. The sailor was smacked in the face and thrown out. The sailor was smacked in the face and thrown out. The sailor was smacked in the face and thrown out. Tale of 11, the king's son and his maid's son were exchanged. There was once a king in his home where there was a maidservant who would serve the king, queen. Generally, who could not be allowed the presence of the king, but this was a maidservant of holiest. Oh, this is by Loitz, Elohara Himulates. This burger, it's a burger.